The Hulk potion was only about 50 millimeters and was stored in a test tube-like glass bottle. Fei had given the last mercenary about of the potion in his experiment, leaving only of this extremely precious potion. Fei had a perfect place to keep them in, the storage units in his barbarian belt. He squatted down and pressed his right hand onto the now buff and tall mercenary's chest and used find potion. Unfortunately, he got nothing except a puddle of thick blood. There was nothing he could do, since find potion was currently only a level 1 ability. The probability of actually finding potions was very low. All 4 corpses in the concealed room had been used, and the only bottle of Hulk potion was an unexpected surprise, but Fei hadn't obtained the information he needed the most. How did this powerful magic potion appear when it didn't even exist in the Diablo world? If he had to come up with a reasonable explanation, he thought that it could possibly be an inconceivable mutation of the barbarians' find potion ability when he brought it into the real world. Then the Hulk potion would very likely be the result of the mutated ability. A mutation of this sort was out of Fei's control. He hadn't tested out the chances of obtaining a Hulk potion, nor did he know if there were any other side effects on the potion. Lastly, he wasn't sure if anyone could just take this potion and gain the monstrous strength that the tall mercenary obtained. Before he could use this potion to increase the strength of his subordinates, Fei had to figure out all the answers to these questions. Even if it was on Earth, huge international pharmaceutical companies would still have to conduct hundreds of clinical trials before putting anything on the market. After he thought through all the key points, Fei sighed lightly. He concentrated his attention onto the black-cloaked 4-star mage lying on the ground like a dead dog. The mage's limbs twitched as blood foamed out of his mouth. It was funny how this mage was probably the most unfortunate mage in the history of Azeroth continent. In terms of power and strength, the mage could easily conquer a remote kingdom like Chambord on his own. However, he had met Fei. He was beaten like a sandbag by the savage despite being surrounded by thousands of allies. Right now, this poor mage was half dead. Under the instructions of Fei, every time the mage showed signs of waking up, the jailers would hit him hard and make sure that he fainted again. Except for a couple of rib bones that were still intact, all the bones in his limbs were broken. If he wasn't a 4-star mage and had a strong vitality, he would have been dead by now. Fei walked up to the mage with a dirty smile on his face. He grabbed a bottle of healing potion from his belt and opened the lid. He dripped a couple drops onto the mage's broken limbs. Instantly, a magical force surrounded the limbs and they started recovering after 4 or 5 seconds. Although the mage's limbs still looked wretched and there were still bone fragments and rotting flesh showing, his limbs at least resembled them now. Fei didn't want the mage to fully recover. If a 4-star mage went crazy, the power of a level 16 barbarian wouldn't be enough to handle it. During the process, Fei discovered something interesting. The healing potion had different effects on different people. The effects were stronger on weaker people, while the effect diminished on more powerful people. Given the same amount of potion, it was enough to almost revive Pierce, who was on the verge of dying. But for the 4-star mage, it was only enough to heal some exterior injuries. Splash! A bucket of cold water mixed with salt was poured onto the 4-star mage. Ah! The mage finally woke up with a long, hoarse groan. He opened his snake-like eyes and glanced around. His eyes landed on the face that he would never forget in his lifetime. Instantly, he started trembling as if he were a girl who had seen the devil take her virginity. He couldn't help but scream, "It's you! Ha, you have a good memory. It's me." Fei laughed arrogantly. He couldn't help but feel proud. Seizing and capturing a 4-star mage despite having less strength than a 3-star warrior. This record could go into the records of great achievements by all the kings of Chambord. You're done. Ahahaha. You're dead. Ignorant dumbass, stupid pig, funny dog. You're still laughing? Do you know what you've done? The skeleton-like mage started screaming in shock after he saw the silver-masked knight's corpse. His body started shaking as if he was getting an electric shock. The entire Chambord kingdom will become hell. You killed Prince Meticulously of the Eindhoven Empire. The entire Zenit Empire will be crushed into pieces. Damn. You want more torture, B? TCH? So arrogant, despite being a prisoner. After seeing this mage yelling arrogantly rather than begging for mercy, Fei became mad. He rushed to the mage and stomped on both of the mage's thighs. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. The leg bones, which recovered under the effect of the healing potion, were turned into a pile of bone fragments, and the thighs turned into meat paste again. The poor mage puked up more blood foam and fainted again. Fei dripped a couple drops of healing potion onto the leg again. After a few seconds, the mage woke up again slowly. After he saw Fei, he started screaming again. You damn pig! Dumbass you. Crack! Crack! The recovered legs were stomped on yet again. Fei squatted down again and patiently dripped some healing potion onto his legs. This time, the mage seemed to understand the situation he was in. He was much quieter this time. He sweated and spoke, breathing heavily. You stupid guy. If you want to live, then start running away right now. You've made a huge mistake. If I were you, I would worry about your own life first. Honorable Mr. Mage, tell me your name and origin. And, is this bastard's name Meticulously? Fei pointed at the silver-masked knight's body and asked coldly. You better tell me everything you know. Otherwise. A murderous expression appeared on Fei's face. My life. The mage bit his teeth angrily as he spoke. I'm injured to this point. Do you think I have a chance to live on? Hehe. But you, young king, tremble. You will spend your entire future in fear. You'll be hunted, and you'll witness the deaths of your loved ones and see their skulls get turned into wine cups. Their souls will be cursed and their limbs will be cut. Pia! 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 Fei held up the mage by his collar of the black cloak and slapped him multiple times. A couple bloody teeth flew in the air and landed onto the ground. You reckless fag! How dare you curse at me? My patience is wearing thin. If you speak rubbish one more time, I will turn your skull into a wine cup. Pooh! You killed Prince Meticulously of the level 4 Eindhoven Empire. Ha ha ha! Once the Eindhoven Empire knows about this, not just your little Chambord kingdom, but also your parent empire Zenit will be crashed into pieces. The mage spat a mouthful of blood onto the ground. Under the threat that Fei imposed, he answered Fei's questions honestly. A malicious look flashed on his face. As he said the words Eindhoven Empire, a gloating smile came on his face. He was waiting for the little king to mentally collapse, because a level 4 empire wasn't something that a little remote kingdom could defend against. But he was disappointed. This dude is a prince of a level 4 empire? After a brief moment of surprise, he laughed as he pointed at the corpse of the silver-masked knight. So I've killed a prince of a level 4 empire? Ha ha ha! After hearing you say that, I feel very refreshed. The feeling of killing a prince is really different. Hey, does that damn Eindhoven Empire have more princes? You? The mage was shocked. His lips swelled after Fei's powerful slaps as if 2 sausages were hanging off of his mouth. He couldn't speak clearly due to his lost teeth. Plus, he didn't know what to say. Didn't the dumb pig in front of him know the consequences of angering a level 4 empire? After seeing the mage being beaten, Fei spoke slowly. After you fainted, your soldiers were cleanly wiped out by the Zenit soldiers. Not a single one escaped. I guess your troops snuck to Chambord. Now that everyone else is dead, you're the only person who's alive, and you're locked up in the Iron Prison water dungeon, which even moon-ranked masters can't even escape from. How will the Eindhoven Empire know that their prince died here? You? The mage's eyes instantly opened wide. As if he was struck by a lightning, he blurted, How did you know? Wasn't it easy to find out? From the beginning, I was wondering why my enemies didn't display any banners and flags. If you guys were bandits, your troops wouldn't have been so organized and well-trained. The black armored enemies had a ton of star-ranked warriors and a lot of sieging machines. Anyone could tell that you were part of an elite formal army. Therefore, there was only one explanation. You guys took off your banners and flags on purpose to hide your origins. You guys didn't want others to know who you were. That raises another question. Why? It's because you guys were engaging in a secret military operation, and it was very likely that this operation was so secretive that it couldn't even be known to strangers or your own people. Faye was actually spouting complete bullshit. He was becoming more fluent and his story was making more sense as he continued the BS. But after seeing the mage's facial expression turn sour, Faye was secretly stoked. He knew that his BS was getting onto something. Maybe something he said was the truth. He smiled nastily as he got closer to the mage. His expression suddenly turned cold and he threatened, "Old thing, give up. If you don't want to be tortured, then tell me why you guys snuck into Shamboard Kingdom? For what reason?" A couple expressions flashed through the mage's face, followed by a moment of silence. He suddenly sighed. "Young man, I have to admit that you are very smart to be able to accurately guess the truth from such few clues. However, it's useless. Even if the Eindhoven Empire temporarily doesn't know where the prince has gone. Once they realize that something is wrong, nothing can hide from the Eindhoven Empire's ears. Even if they lose a single horse, the Imperial secret spies can investigate and find where it is, not to mention His Highness and his 3,000 black-armored elite soldiers. When they find out what has happened, Shamboard and Zenith Empire will be doomed. Everyone will die. Die your mom." Faye threw the mage 2 more slaps to his face, making the mage climax. A portion of his teeth flew out of his mouth again. Faye threatened, "Old douche, tell me honestly why you guys came to Shamboard." The mage sneered. A look of viciousness and spitefulness flashed in his eyes as he kept his silence. "Yo, trying to act tough in front of me?" Faye was so angry that he started laughing. "All right, old thing, you have some balls. Hold yourself together for this." Faye sneered as he grabbed onto one of the mage's bones that had just recovered. He applied some of his strength and crushed the bone again. The mage took in a deep cold breath and passed out. Faye took out the healing potion and dripped some of it onto the bone. Soon, the old mage woke up and looked at his own leg bone in shock. "My bone has recovered already? This? Old douche, look at this." Faye lightly shook the half-filled healing potion bottle in his hand and smiled as if he was a devil ready to make a dirty exchange. "The potion in this bottle is enough to revive a life and heal anyone. It doesn't matter how severe an injury is. A few drips of the potion will heal it. If you still try and act tough and stay silent, I'll crash and shatter your bones, heal it again, break it again, and heal it again. If you have the patience to play with me, I'll let you feel the pain of getting every bone in your body crushed thousands of times. That feeling. Ha 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 ha." The mage broke down instantly and cried, "Devil, you devil?" Faye laughed. "If you tell me the truth, I'll save your life with this potion. All the broken bones in your limbs and body will be completely recovered. If there's a chance, we might even be able to cooperate." The mage rolled his eyes a couple times and hesitated as he contemplated his situation. His limbs had already been beaten and crushed into meat paste and had no life in them. The only way that he survived until now was by relying on his powerful magic powers. He had no desires and no needs anymore. This was why he was super brave and tough. But as soon as he saw hope for survival, the mage's resolve finally wavered. Desperation could make heroes, but hope could turn even the best hero into a coward. The red potion in the devil's hand was the only hope for the black-cloaked mage. Everyone treasured their own lives, and a huge opportunity had been presented right in front of him. If he could handle it properly, he could soar back to his prior status and power level. Therefore, he eventually submitted to Faye. He nodded. "All right, I'll tell you everything I know, but before that, you have to swear that once I tell you everything, you will heal me. If you aren't a man of your words, you will." "I swear to the god of war that is Alexander, the king of Shamboard, if I don't honor my words, then I shall fall into the deepest part of hell and be tortured for eternity." Faye raised his hand and vowed solemnly. The mage believed Faye. "My name is Evans and I'm a 4-star mage. I'm from the faraway, level 9 Manchester Empire. I was traveling around the continent in accordance with my tutor Ferdinand's instructions. 3 months ago, when I was traveling through the deep forest to the north of Eindhoven Empire, I accidentally ran into 2 mercenary teams fighting to the death over a mysterious black map. In the beginning, I was only curious, so I killed off all the 100 or so mercenaries and laid my hands on the map. I wasn't really paying attention to it at first, but then I found out that the materials necessary to make the map were things that I, a 4-star mage, had never seen before. After some translation and research, I was shocked to find out that I had inadvertently picked up a huge surprise. The map was an antique passed down from the Battle of Gods and Demons thousands of years ago. Many locations were circled by red marks. Those areas are likely the ruins of the mythical wars between the god and demons. Besides those ruins, many other locations were marked as well, but I don't know what they represent. After I found out about this surprise, I wanted to explore the ruins of the mythical war. I spent about 2 months researching and studying this map in great detail and finally located one of the many ruins. So one of these ruins is at Chambord Castle? Something triggered Faye as he asked calmly. And that's right, it was at Chambord Castle. More than a month ago, I came to Chambord Castle a couple times and searched for the ruins in the castle carefully. Although I found some rough clues, I never found the real entrance to the ruins. After that, I realized that finding the ruins would likely be a time and energy-consuming operation. I couldn't do it all by myself. Plus, there were so many people living in Chambord. Therefore, after some thought, I had to find a helper. So you went and found that damn Prince of Eindhoven? I knew the Prince Meticulously beforehand. He knew that I was powerful and tried to recruit me under his belt to help him battle for the throne of Eindhoven Empire against his 2 brothers. I found him and told him that I had discovered ruins from the mythical war thousands of years ago and invited him to explore it together. Once he acquired the ruins, he would be able to easily beat his 2 brothers and become the next emperor of the Eindhoven Empire. Meticulously was stoked and accepted my invitation immediately. To prevent his 2 brothers from finding out what he was up to, he pretended to travel for leisure and brought his elite soldiers to the edge of Zenit Empire. We immediately changed our appearances and took off all our banners and flags. Then we snuck through Zenit Empire's sentries, crossed the valleys and forests and surrounded Chambord in the blink of an eye. The plan was to conquer the castle at light speed and massacre all the citizens and royals. After we gained ownership of the castle, we would create a false impression that nothing had happened and search the castle for the ruins. After all, no one would pay attention to a remote little kingdom such as Chambord. Until Zenit Empire found out about us, we would have already acquired and took over the ruins. That's strange. By your gloomy and vicious look, you probably don't have the kind of heart to help that idiot prince fight for the throne. Moreover, to share the mythical ruins with him. You're up to no good as well. Faye stared at the mage and sneered. Ache! Ache! The mage coughed up a mouthful of blood. He said weakly, "Of course, the mythical ruins are so precious. Why would I share it with him? Once we found the entrance to the ruins and started exploring, I would kill him, take control of the 3,000 soldiers and order them to continue exploring the ruins for me." The mage started laughing when he spoke of his master plan. "Aren't you afraid of Eindhoven Empire's revenge? To avoid other people from finding out what we were doing and prevent unnecessary fights over the ruins, we wiped out all the traces. No one would be able to find out where Prince Meticulously and his troops had gone." Ha ha ha. Prince Meticulously dug his own grave. Everything was going according to my plan. So all the stuff you said about the Eindhoven Empire eventually finding out what had happened was just to scare me? They sneered. Will they never find out that their prince died here? Nothing's certain. You can't underestimate Eindhoven Empire's strength. They will find out eventually. However, even if they do, so what? I'm from the level 9 Manchester Empire, and my mentor Ferdinand is a very important official in the empire. When they find out about this, I'd already be done exploring the ruins and have reported the ruins to the Manchester Empire. By that time, I would have the appraisal of the empire and my status would soar. What could a level 4 empire do to me at that time? The mage had a vicious expression on his face as he said that. Your idea was great, but unfortunately, your luck wasn't on point. You met me and were beaten like a sandbag. Aren't you a weak prisoner now? Begging for mercy? Faye was being sarcastic. I have to thank you. If it wasn't for your detailed planning, Chambord may have truly be doomed under Eindhoven cavalry's iron hooves. The mage was enraged after he heard that. He stared at Faye angrily and wanted to say something sarcastic back, but after a moment of hesitation, he lowered his head and sighed sadly. What could I do? Calculations can't stand against fate. I would have never thought that such a magnificent character like you could exist in the small Chambord kingdom. However, we wouldn't know each other if we didn't fight. What you said earlier was true. We can cooperate and work together in the future. Faye didn't comment on the mage's recommendation. He was shocked on the inside. What the mage said had proved some of his early hypotheses. Chambord did have a long history behind it, and the huge underground maze-like prison was probably a part of the mythical ruins. Faye didn't show any emotion on his face. He continuously asked, "Tell me about the mythical ruins. You've never heard of the mythical ruins before?" The mage laughed disdainfully. But after he saw the murderous glare in Faye's eyes, his ego disappeared like melting ice cream and answered humbly. According to legends, thousands of years ago gods and demons ruled the Azeroth continent. Both races were crazily powerful. They could crush mountains, rip open the skies, shatter the land, and do whatever they wanted. But for some reason, both races couldn't bear each other. One race had to die. Since the beginning of their existence, they had fought and battled against each other. The war lasted more than tens of thousands of years. Gods and demons battled across the continent, and the ruins of war spread across the whole continent. However, the ruins were slowly buried in dust over time. Afterwards, the two powerful races of gods and demons suddenly disappeared mysteriously from Azeroth continent. After a long period of time, the human race slowly rose. Of course, these are only legends told by traveling poets and storytellers. But people did find quite a few mysterious ruins on the continent and gained a ton of incredible items from them. Even the training methods of energy and magic powers extremely popular on the continent right now were discovered from the ruins. People had gotten magic items and devices, wealth, energy technique scrolls, magic training scrolls, and much, much more from the ruins. Once you acquire a mythical ruin, you will obtain everything. That was the golden rule on the continent. Level 9 Barcelona Empire, the #1 empire on the continent, and a few other empires such as the Milan Empire, Chelsea Empire, and Anfield Empire all rose to power and got stronger after they discovered large-scale mythical ruins. Even our Manchester Empire was no exception. The great imperial creator Master Matt Busby created the Manchester Empire after he discovered a great mythical ruins and acquired of its resources. As the mage spoke, a rare and proud expression appeared on his face. The man named Busby must have been super powerful. After Faye heard everything the mage said, he had some ideas about what was going on. The so-called mythical ruins was similar to a pirate's buried treasure. If anyone was lucky enough to find an unexplored mythical ruins, they would obtain magic devices, training scrolls, and more from the gods and demons era. And if those items were utilized properly, even if the so-called Eindhoven Empire tried to wage war against Chambord, Chambord wouldn't be scared. All right, you've spoken enough. Now give me that map. Faye reached out his hand and smiled. Sir Elvis, you're right. It looks like we will have many opportunities to cooperate. But before that, give me the map so I can inspect it. What if the map and what you said were all fake? Ha ha. Cough, cough. Young man, do you think I'm an idiot? The mage coughed up mouthfuls of blood as he spoke with a ridiculing expression on his face. I'm afraid that as soon as I hand over the map, I'll be turned into a corpse. Faye didn't get mad at all. He squatted down and tapped the mage's shoulder and winked as he said, How could I? Sir Elvis, I've already swore an oath to the god of war with my honor as a king. How could I trick you? Plus, to explore the mythical ruin at Chambord, I will need powerful mages and warriors to help me. You are exactly what I need. Ha ha ha. We have a common interest and need each other's help. Why would I kill you now? After hearing Faye's words, the mage started hesitating. Throughout the ages, there were two things on Azeroth continent that people weren't allowed to tarnish. The first one was the principles of knights, and the second was the honor of a king, especially the kind of oath that Faye did in honor of the king to the god of war. Originally, Elvis would have believed Faye, but for some reason he felt that the king in front of him was kind of sketchy and slimy and not very dependable. Faye's expression turned cold after he saw Elvis's hesitation. He humphed as he stood up and suddenly switched to necromancer mode. A cloud of cold and dark death energy surrounded him. Faye raised his hand and pointed at a location. Crash! Something incredible happened. The mage's eyes opened wide and his eyeballs almost fell out of his head. In the splashing blood, a vicious skeleton holding a bone shield and bone blade climbed out of a dead mercenary's corpse. The skeleton made cracking sounds every time it moved. It was the sound of bones grinding on each other. With two black holes in its eye sockets and white bones, it looked like the demons from hell. Necromancer? Ray's skeleton. Ah? You? The mage started trembling as if he was freezing. You're actually an evil undead mage? Faye slightly frowned. He surprisingly sensed a familiar energy from the mage. It was also a dark death energy. Although it was weak and pretty well hidden inside the mage's body, it couldn't stay undetected in front of Faye, who had the power of a level 6 necromancer. Haha. This is pretty unexpected. Sir Elvis, you actually know undead magic. I won't say anything more. If you hand over that map peacefully, we can still cooperate friendly and explore the ruins together. Otherwise, you know that to a necromancer like myself, even if you die, your soul can't escape from my palms. I have many ways to refine and torture your soul. You'll give me the map sooner or later, so why would you want to go through all the pain and trouble? The white cloud of death energy spun crazily in Faye's palm. Faye tried to put on an evil and sinister look as he threatened the mage. Faye honestly felt like he was a supervillain in the superhero movies and was torturing a sidekick to get some secret about the superhero. You don't have to go through all of this. Fortunately, he wasn't the Joker and the mage wasn't Robin. The mage looked at the ferocious skeleton and hesitated a little. He eventually handed over the map to Faye. Although he was tortured quite a bit, he still had enough magic power to open up his own storage ring. Faye's incentives and threats made the mage dubious, but he ended up making the hard decision. He raised his hand and a folded map made of a mysterious material appeared in his hand. Young man, this is the map. You have to be a man of your words. Without a 4-star mage, you won't ever be able to open and explore the mythical ruin. You won't get anything from killing me. Faye grabbed the map and opened it to inspect it. The map wasn't small. It was a square map about 3 yards, on each side. It was made from an unknown yellow material and felt weightless. The map itself had a weak floating force. Faye shook the map, causing it to completely open itself in the air. Mountains, hills, rivers, lakes, forests. Numerous terrains were recorded on it. It contained a wide area and many various colored circles and dots marked a lot of areas. The notes on the map were in strange characters. Faye felt like those characters were familiar, but he couldn't figure out where they were from. Although it was the first time that Faye had seen this map, his intuition told him that Elvis didn't give him a fake map to trick him. Faye waved his hand. Crack! The skeleton warrior shattered into a pile of bone fragments. He also switched from necromancer mode back to barbarian mode. The thick death energy that surrounded him disappeared as if it never appeared. This change made the mage's eyes shine in greed. His wasn't a talented mage. He followed and studied under the moon-ranked Master Ferdinand for more than 20 years, yet he was only able to reach the power of a 4-star mage. He was once mocked by everyone in the Manchester Empire. However, due to his greed for power, he wasn't able to resist studying undead magic which could advance and give him power quickly. As a result, he was shunned and prohibited by the overlord on the continent, the Holy Church. Due to the fear of other people finding out about it and sending him into a pit of fire, he hid his undead magic powers in his body carefully and no one had found out about it yet. The main reason that he left Manchester Empire and traveled the continent was to hide from the higher-ups and powerful priests at the capital of the empire. Fei's method of hiding his undead magic power in the body gave him a huge hope. If he could learn the method, he could then train and study undead magic to the limit and wouldn't have to worry about the priests finding out about it. After seeing the bones fragments on the ground, Elvis was a little relieved. It looked like that young man in front of him didn't have any intention to kill him. He was needed for the exploration of the ruin. This is great. After I recover and restore my powers, I'll pretend to cooperate with this king and slowly take control of Chambord in secret, as well as figure out how he's hiding his undead magic powers. By that time, I'll sneak attack and kill him with a surprise. I can monopolize the resources in the ruins and no one will know. Young man, I have already given you the map. Please heal me quickly. I can't hold any longer. The 4-star mage Elvis reminded Fei. Okakak. I'm a man of my words. Fei folded the map back into a small square and put it into the storage space in his belt. He then took out a bottle of healing potion, squatted down and said, Sir Elvis, it's my pleasure to cooperate with you. After we join forces, we can keep the ruins all to ourselves. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Young man, you made the right decision. Elvis was finally relieved. He smiled, but an undetectable viciousness flashed through his eyes. Unfortunately, you made a not-so-right decision. Fei's expression suddenly turned cold and his hands instantly grabbed the mage by his neck. With some force, crack! Elvis's upper spinal cord and throat were cracked into pieces. You? The sign of life slowly disappeared from Elvis's eyes. His was stunned up until his death and the smile on his face still hadn't faded away. Never in his wildest dreams would he have understood why the young king in front of him dared to kill him. He knew that the king needed a powerful mage to open and explore a mythical ruin. How and where could the little Chambord kingdom recruit a suitable mage? Of course, if he knew that Fei had the confidence and ability to advance to a 4-star mage in the Diablo world, he wouldn't have given up that map so easily. Also, Fei didn't swear to God of War under the name and soul of Alexander. But how could Elvis had known that the real Alexander and his soul was already gone? With a snake like you, how could I attempt such an impossible cooperation? Fei shook his head and whispered. This mage named Elvis had devastating power and had a strong background. Also, with his vicious mind, Fei didn't dare heal him back to full health. If he became careless for a moment, he would lose the whole game and get bitten by the poisonous snake. By that time, the fall of the kingdom and the slaughtering of civilians would occur in seconds. The story of the farmer and the snake was told by Aesop thousands of years ago. Fei wasn't dumb enough to use his warm body to save a vicious poisonous snake. The secret about the mythical ruins, the history of Chambord and the death of the Prince Meticulously of Eindhoven Empire would be forever buried in this iron prison water dungeon. No one would know except for Fei. No one could blame Fei's ruthlessness. On Azeroth continent, which followed the rule of the jungle, Fei couldn't allow himself to be negligent. Not even once. We may be similar, but luck just wasn't on your side. Fei took out a bottle of mana potion and sipped some down his throat. He had to replenish the mana that was depleted when he used Find Potion. Then he pressed his palm on Mage Elvis's corpse and lightly roared and used the ability Find Potion again. Plump! A sound from heaven rung in Fei's ear. Yes! Fei was stoked. Another bottle of green Hulk Potion appeared in mid-air. It shined a mysterious light. The weak newborn-like spirit energy surrounded the bottle and gave Fei a feeling of intimacy. Fei put this precious bottle of Hulk Potion back in his storage space in the belt and thought for a second. He switched to sorcerer mode and shot a few fire bolts onto the corpse lying on the ground and the bone fragments left by the skeleton warrior. The remains burned into ashes, destroying the last bit of evidence. After the corpses were burnt, Fei's eyes landed on the magic armor and a few magic weapons and devices that belonged to the silver-masked knight. Except for that, in the ashes, Elvis's storage ring wasn't destroyed by the fire. It was still shiny, giving Faye an unspeakable temptation. Faye knew that with Elvis's power and background, there must have been a lot of treasures and valuables in his storage ring. Moreover, the Silver Masked Knight was royalty from a level 4 empire, so his amour and items had to be valuable. If he rewarded them to the leaders in Chambord, the strength of Chambord would increase. Even if he didn't distribute them to the others and sold them off on the black market, he could get a lot of useful resources in return. But it's too dangerous. Elvis and the prince had a ton of status. Their items would attract a lot of attention. If someone found out about them and traced their origins back to Chambord, many incidents would be instantly exposed. Neither Faye nor Chambord would be able to bear this level of risk and danger. Faye had to take out any kind of dangers right off the bat and do all he could do to give more time for Chambord to grow stronger. Faye wasn't powerful enough to take on the level 4 Eindhoven Empire. Faye felt his heart breaking, but finally he made up his mind and shot out a ton of fire bolts at the ring, armor, and items. He burned them in the fire and tried to destroy these valuable items into a pile of junk to eliminate any possibilities. However, not afraid of fire, Faye surprisingly found out that although the fire covered and buried the ring, armor, and items in it, after a few minutes had passed, there were no signs of them melting or being destroyed. The blue magic power was still surrounding the armor, and the ring was still shining a white light. No matter how the fire burned, they were still maintained their form. Looks like treasures are truly treasures. But what should I do? These things will be the causes of disasters. Faye tried ice bolts and charged bolts. He even switched back to necromancer mode and tried to destroy the items using his death energy, but it was no use. He also wanted to try to crush them into small pieces, but after thinking about the different situations that might occur if the magic items were shattered into pieces and the magic power in them were released, he didn't want to do that anymore. After a while, he ended up putting all of them into his storage belt and decided to destroy them later when he became more powerful. At this time, there were only a few iron chains left in the concealed room. Faye calculated the time and realized that he had stayed at the Iron Prison water dungeon for more than 3 hours. It was probably dark outside already. It was time to leave. But before he left, there was one more thing that he had to do, test Warden Oleg. Oleg, come on in, Faye shouted. Warden Oleg rushed in a couple of steps. As soon as he arrived, he surprisingly found out that all the prisoners had disappeared. What was left were 3 sets of iron chains and 5 piles of black ashes. He knew that the 3 mercenaries and the mage were all killed, and their corpses were burnt alongside the silver-masked man's corpse. He suddenly felt devastated and was even more scared of the young king's ruthless heart. He didn't even dare to take a long breath as he stood behind Faye timidly. Oleg, tell me, when you rushed in earlier, what did you see? Faye asked causally. But Oleg, on the other hand, was shocked by the question and started to sweat like crazy. He thought that Faye wanted to kill him, so he kneeled down and begged, Your Majesty, please forgive me. I beg for your mercy. I didn't see anything. I only saw your Majesty studying the carvings and lines on the stone wall. Please pardon me. Faye looked at Oleg, who was shaking as if he was having a seizure, and smiled. Get up. When did I say that I was going to kill you? Thank you, your Majesty. Oleg didn't dare resist Faye's command. He stood up as his body shook in fear. His Highness, the God of War, created a miracle and restored my intelligence 4 days ago. In these 4 days, too many situations occurred. I've gained a rough understanding of the situation in Chambord the past 3 years. The evil conspirator Bazar abused his power and threw the kingdom into chaos and persecuted my citizens. The former military judge Kanka also assisted him in his conspiracies. Bazar fled and is now getting chased, and the latter was executed by me. You, Oleg, helped Bazar in executing a few of his evil plans in the past 3 years. Even if you die 1,000 times, it's not enough to quell the public anger. Oleg started shivering more and more as he heard Faye's words. As if he was walking on a tightrope between skyscrapers, he felt his heart was about to burst out of his chest while his body was being kept in a freezer. As he heard the last sentence, he kneeled down to the ground and started to beg for mercy again. Fei looked at him and continued, I'm not a brutal killer. You followed me to the stone bridge that day to battle our enemies. You killed 45 enemies and injured yourself while saving 4 of your companions' lives. All of these things were clearly observed by me. That counts as you redeeming yourself, so I didn't punish you for what you did before. Merits shall be rewarded and wrongs shall be punished. This is my governing principle of the kingdom. Your companions such as Brooke, Pierce, Drogba have all received great rewards, and you were the only one who remained at the same position without obtaining any rewards. Have you ever complained about it? Your Majesty, Oleg wouldn't dare do so. I understood that your Majesty was pardoning me on purpose, so you sent Mr. Brooke to the prison this morning to give me a heads up and allow me some time to prepare and get rid of all the bad things in the prison to make up for all the mistakes I've committed. Your Majesty is gracious, and I'm very grateful of it. I'm willing to give up everything I have to assist your Majesty, even if I have to bleed to death. As long as you understand. Fei said lightly. Right now in Chambord, Brooke is intelligent, but due to his integrity, he lacks the necessary roundness. People such as Pierce and Drogba are all great warriors on the battlefield, but their heads aren't that good. Uncle Lampard hates political affairs and Uncle Bast is tied down by other duties. Chambord is only lacking someone like you who is shameless, slimy, deceitful that can do the dirty work for me. I have the intention to use and depend on you, but... Fei paused deliberately for a few seconds here. Oleg knew that Fei wanted. He patted his chest and swore, To the god of war, I, Oleg, am willing to become the most loyal hyena of His Majesty Alexander. I shall be on the front line wherever he points. If my words and deeds don't match, I shall go to hell when I die and face torture for an eternity. I'm not a huge believer in oaths. Fei continued. I emphasize practical actions. There are a few things that I need you to do for me as soon as you can. I will wait for your performance. Please order me, Your Majesty. I will do my best. First of all, I feel that this iron prison water dungeon is very dark and humid. There isn't any sunlight in here all day. The entire environment is horrible. I also read in the documents that many weak prisoners died in the prison due to illnesses that weren't treated in time. This proves that this place isn't too suitable for keeping prisoners, especially since the citizens of Chambord are simple folks. Even if they commit a crime, they are likely only minor offenses. Disputes between neighbors and minor offenses shouldn't be treated this way. Therefore, I have decided to construct a simple prison outside of this underground maze to keep all the minor offenders. Oleg, take care of that for me as fast as you can. Oleg was surprised. He didn't expect that the first thing the king wanted him to do was this. Logically speaking, this iron prison water dungeon was 100% secure. No one had escaped from here in centuries. It was the perfect prison. However, Oleg didn't dare to object and question any of the king's decisions. He quickly flattered the king to show his loyalty. Your Majesty is kind and very compassionate towards your subjects. Please be assured that I will build this external prison in the shortest amount of time. Fei nodded and added worriedly, Great. But you have to remember, don't disturb the public and don't forcefully recruit citizens into compulsory labor. The tattered healing facility for wounded soldiers is unbearable to look at. How about you just bring some people and fix that place up? Transform it into a simple prison. The kingdom currently has limited financial resources, so just do some simple repairs to it. Oleg knew it was an opportunity for him. He immediately took it upon himself. Your Majesty, Oleg will bear all the costs associated with repairing and transforming the new prison. The kingdom doesn't have to spend a penny. Fei was waiting for Oleg to say that. He smiled as he tapped Oleg's shoulder and agreed. I'm very pleased by your loyalty. Remember, my governing principle distinguishes between reward and punishment. If your merits and sacrifices are valuable and recognized by all the citizens, I won't let you suffer any loss. After he said that, Fei smiled as he walked toward the exit of the water dungeon. Oleg was excited when he heard those words of encouragement. Even his shoulders that were tapped by the king's hand felt warm. He knew that transforming the prison was a great opportunity for him. He made a decision that he would do a good job of completing the operation, even if it took all his wealth. Moreover, the king had clearly hinted that he didn't just need to satisfy him, but also the citizens as well. This kind of hint gave him more confidence. After leaving the dark and gloomy prison, Fei sent away the guards and slowly walked towards the city center on his own through the path on the mountain as he enjoyed the beauty of his kingdom under the sunset. He accomplished a few things today, revamping the Iron Prison water dungeon and surprisingly discovering and acquiring the precious map of the mythical ruins. Fei was hyped. Under the beautiful scenery and sounds of nature, he had the urge to roar into the sky. Under the sunset, everything seemed golden. It was supper time, and smoke from cooking curled up across the residences. Birds returned to their nests and leaves returned to their roots. Fei was walking leisurely in the castle. He was in no rush to get back. He wanted to observe the daily lives of his citizens close up. Every scene was new and fresh to Fei, who just got into this world. It was as if he walked into a fantasy world. The stone structures and building, huge stone statues of gods, exotic culture, and everything around him were things that he had never seen before. Beside opening his eyes, he had a strange feeling that he was merging into this world. This castle was quiet and peaceful, as if it was in heaven. Fei's fame in the kingdom was unparalleled. There wasn't a single person that didn't recognize him. When he was walking on the street, people came up and greeted him frequently. Although there was a huge status separation on Azeroth continent, it wasn't like ancient times on Earth where subjects had to kneel down to the Empire every time they saw him. That saved Fei a lot of trouble. He smiled and responded back to them as he walked in the castle and enjoyed the exotic sceneries. He was surprised to find that he was slowly getting attaching to this small remote kingdom and becoming a part of it. The feeling of inseparability grew in his heart crazily like grass after a heavy rain. "Hey, you sly Zacker! Stop running!" Children's laughter sounded beside Fei's ear. A clumsy boy rushed out of a dark alley and crashed into Fei by accident. The little guy opened his crystal blue diamond-like eyes widely and stared at Fei. A bunch of kids were chasing behind him, a mix of boys and girls. They were dirty. They all had dust on their little faces and wrinkled clothes. They smiled as they saw Fei. Fei was surprised to see Pierce's 12-year-old daughter Louise in the crowd. The girl who looked like a pretty and delicate doll was currently messy. Her red hair was scattered around her shoulders, and a few dark mud stains decorated her white face. It was hard for Fei to relate her to the girl who was cold and mature and willing to become his lover if he saved her father. She was a child after all. She would show her childish and playful side when she was playing with kids in her age group. "It's King Alexander." The moment that Fei recognized Louise, she had also recognized Fei as well. An undetectable shyness and slyness flashed on her face. She and her friends quickly surrounded Fei. Soon, the citizens of Chambord discovered something very interesting. As if they found a new favorite toy, more and more mischievous kids formed a circle on the small square. They sat quietly on the ground as they rested their heads on their knees and burst into laughter occasionally. In the middle of the circle, it was their supreme King Alexander who was telling stories to the kids. He had a bright smile on his face. Just like the traveling poets and storytellers, he held kids in his lap and arms and told them stories and tales, disregarding the dirt on their clothes. "God of War, thank you for your generosity for giving us such an brave and honorable king." Everyone who saw the scene felt something growing in their hearts. Originally, some women were looking for their kids for supper angrily with a broom in their hands. However, after seeing their kids listening to King Alexander's stories, they were surprised and delighted. They all stood on the side and waited patiently, in the middle of the circle. "Haha, all right, that's enough for today. There are more stories to the adventure of the evil Master Mage Bumblebee and his lazy servant Sam. If you guys want, I will tell you guys more tomorrow. It's dark already. Quickly go home and eat your supper." Fei rubbed the dirty face off a little guy who was sitting beside him. He then stood up and slapped the dirt off of his butt and smiled as he ended the storytelling session for today. "Oh, I don't want to go home. It's so boring," the kids murmured as they complained. The little guys wanted more. They all stared at Faye as they were reluctant to leave Faye. It made Faye feel very proud, as if he had won a war. He laughed. You guys are still young. When you grow up, you can become prestige mages and honorable warriors. Just like Bumblebee, you guys will have experiences and adventures with your servants. But we can't become mages and warriors. Your Majesty, my dad only knows how to work with metal. I can only become a blacksmith. A boy said in pity. Yeah, no mage would want to teach kids from an ordinary family, and we don't have energy training scrolls? Another boy said in wrinkly clothes. My family is too poor. We can't even have full meals. My dad said that he will send me to Viscount Lousy's mansion to become a servant. Only nobles and rich merchants in Chambord can afford getting a mage or warrior teacher for their kids. The red-haired Louise added as she winked her eyes. Only if someone is willing to teach us. It's too bad. But my lazy dad doesn't know anything about energy, Humph. The kids were all suddenly disappointed. The smiles disappeared from the little dirty faces, and they were replaced by sadness that didn't belong to kids of their age. They all wanted to become heroes, but the cruel reality murdered their dreams at the infant stage. The low social status and pressure for survival took away their right to chase after their dreams. After seeing the sad and disappointed faces, Faye felt his heart ache. Suddenly, a light bulb flashed in his head and he had a terrific idea. After he returned to the palace, the servants had already prepared the dinner. Angela and Emma were nowhere to be found. Faye felt a bit strange. The royal chef's skills were not that good. For the last couple days, except for roasted meat, bread, and milk, there were only fruits. Faye was already over them, but he had to get some food into his stomach. After eating a few bites, he walked to his private quarters in the palace. He wanted some peace and quiet so he could think through the couple of important plans he wanted to execute. At this time, Angela finally returned with Emma. Where did you guys go? I haven't seen you guys all day. Faye smiled. Your Majesty. Did you miss Angela? Emma winked at Faye as she pushed Angela into Faye's arms. She giggled. It was quite a coincidence. We bumped into Princess Xianxia in the Royal Canonization Legion and chatted with her for a long time. Your Majesty, Her Highness is very friendly. She didn't talk to us with any air of superiority. She had a good conversation with Angela. She also asked a lot of things about Your Majesty. After hearing Emma's words, Faye sensed something. How could it have been so coincidental that the eldest princess bumped into Angela on the street and had such a heart-to-heart conversation that took the whole day? That princess of Zenith Empire was very cunning. Angela and Emma were both too naive to be Tinashe's match. Faye was almost certain that the princess intentionally met them to steal a lot of information calmly and collectedly. Although he knew what was going on, Faye put on a smile. Really? Ha ha ha. Who doesn't love a girl like Angela? It looks like the eldest princess of the Zenith Empire was charmed by our beautiful Angela. Ha ha ha. Oh right, Angela. What did you talk about with Her Highness the whole day? We talked about a lot of stuff. Angela blushed due to Faye's bold praise, and a shy expression appeared on her face. She pretended to fix her hair calmly, but she looked down and was too shy to look at Faye. She continued. Her Highness was very interested in Chambord's history. We talked about a lot of old stories from when the old king was still alive, the current influential figures in Chambord, and of course the defensive war that just ended. Alexander, Her Highness really admires your actions when you took on the entire enemy troops by yourself. She said that you're a brave and intelligent king that is worth of all our respect. Faye could only bitterly laugh at that in his mind. The two naive girls completely fell into that elder princess trap. After today, Xianxia probably knew all the things that she should and shouldn't have known, including all the mysterious, bizarre incidences that happened to Alexander in the last couple days. We also talked about... Ah? As Angela was speaking, she suddenly gasped. This pure, flawless girl finally realized something. She raised her head and looked at Faye and asked timidly, Alexander, did I say something that I shouldn't have said? Faye smiled as he shook his head. No, the things you said aren't important. Oh, Angela, let's not talk about that now. I have something to show you. You should give me some recommendations. Faye grabbed Angela's soft hand and walked towards the main palace. Angela pretended to try to pull her hand away, but after a few unsuccessful tries, she gave up and let Faye hold onto her hand. Emma, who was behind them, saw the whole thing and started giggling. Emma didn't follow them. Faye didn't want Angela to know what really happened. Even if Angela didn't talk with Xianxia, she would definitely find about what happened in Chambord through other means. He never expected to hide everything from Xianxia. They soon arrived at the main palace. Faye took out a delicately tanned soft animal skin that was as thin as paper. He also took out a quill and started to draw on it. Although he was studying to be a linguist, he loved making sketches and was quite good at it. Quickly, a series of vivid drawings appeared on the animal skin. Angela stood on the side and watched quietly, from confusion to a rough understanding, to staring at Faye in surprise. The smart girl finally knew what Faye was drawing on the animal skin when he was almost finished. They were a series of designs of strange-looking clothes. Hee. Done. What do you think? Angela, take a look. If we make clothes according to these designs, would you want to wear them? Faye pointed at the animal skin and asked proudly. The designs that he drew out were thoughtfully selected. After taking into account the history and culture on Azeroth continent, he didn't draw any outrageous outfits such as jeans, stockings, and miniskirts. There were a total of 10 designs. The 5 female designs closely resembled European crinolines. Faye intentionally referenced the females dressed in Pirates of Caribbean and tried to make each design very classy. The 5 male designs were closer to modern-day men's clothing. The main change was that Faye added on trousers. Chambord's custom of men not wearing any pants was very uncomfortable, so Faye added pants into the designs. Angela held the animal skin in her hands and stared at the designs. Her long eyelashes fluttered as if they were lightly brushing and tickling Faye's heart. She looked at them closely and opened her pretty mouth in surprise. Alexander, these dresses are so beautiful. I like them a lot. But what are these things for? Angela pointed at a few parts on the designs and asked curiously. Faye took a look at those parts and patiently explained the function of each piece. A few dresses in Pirates of Caribbean were pretty sophisticated and complicated to make. Faye greatly simplified them using his understanding, but Angela still took the trouble to ask several times. Fortunately, women were born with a great instinct on clothing. At last, after some in-depth explanations, Angela had completely fallen in love with these 5 sets of female clothing designs. I can't wait to put these on, the beautiful girl said. Faye laughed. It seemed like humans' pursuit for beauty was common, no matter where one was. The 10 designs represented an era and civilization, and they quickly conquered the future queen. This gave him a bit more confidence on one of his future plans. Angela, I might be very busy the next few days. Could you and Emma help me make these sets of clothes and see how the results are? Faye asked. No problem. Aunt Sophia, Laura, Danny, Uncle Lawrence, and I are very close. They are the best tailors in Chambord. We can definitely make these clothes in the shortest amount of time. Angela was very happy that she was finally able to help Alexander out. She agreed without any hesitation. Haha, that's great. Faye was stoked. He rolled his eyes and suddenly said again, Angela, to thank you, I decided to design a special gift for you. After he said that, he picked out the quill again and started drawing on another sheet of animal skin. Angela was overjoyed. She couldn't wait to see what Faye had specially designed for her. However, until Faye finished, she had no idea what was being drawn on the animal skin. There were 3 thin ribbons connecting 2 circular cloths together. Although it looked familiar, the naive girl couldn't figure out what it was for. Is this also clothing? How do I wear this thing? Where do I wear it? After seeing the puzzled look on Angela's face, Faye whispered into the girl's ear to explain. Ah, it's... 2 red clouds suddenly appeared on Angela's fine white face. She stared at Faye angrily. Her bashful expression suddenly took away the color in the whole world. The girl covered her face and ran out of the main palace. In the next few days, a couple strange incidences occurred in Chambord. The first thing was that the greedy and vicious warden Oleg dramatically changed his attitude. He unexpectedly spent his own money and fixed up the old crumbling healing facility for the wounded soldiers. He also started renovating the place. According to his words, he was following the king's command and building a new prison to keep prisoner who committed minor crimes. It was a great feeling. The citizens of Chambord could finally get away from that terrible hell-like iron prison water dungeon. Before, a few citizens who only got locked up for a few months because of disputes and fights between neighbors died in the prison due to illnesses caused by the humid and cold environment. The new prison would definitely solve that problem. After considering it, a lot of citizens volunteered in the operation of building the new prison. Oleg was surprised and stoked at the same time. With more manpower, the duration of the project could shorten by a ton. The second thing was that every night, the brave and honorable King Alexander would appear on the stone square on the north side of castle and tell stories to the kids in the kingdom. Quickly, the story of the evil mage Bumblebee and his servant Sam, the holy druid Garfield and his summoner beast friends traveling to the west and slaying the dragon, the pure snow and the 7 dwarf warriors who helped defeat the female Lich King and free her kingdom, started to spread in Chambord through the kids. Gradually, except for the kids, even adults started to come to the square and listen to the king's stories. After a few days, the people surprisingly saw King Alexander wearing a set of strange-looking clothes that no one had seen before. Although the clothes looked strange, the citizens of Chambord quickly got used to it. After seeing it for a while, the citizens gradually felt that the clothes worn by King Alexander were great. The 2 cloth tubes looked especially good and kept in a lot of warmth. Finally, on the 8th day, Faye arrived on the square and brought a whole carriage of those special clothes. As a present, he gave them to the kids and the poor families. It was approaching late autumn and the weather was getting colder and colder. These clothes could help the poorer citizens stay warm. Of course, Faye also wanted these clothes to become popular in Chambord through this method. His lowest goal was to at least let the citizens start to like to wear pants. The third thing was that at the 10th day's evening after Faye finished his story session, he announced a new law as the king. All the kids between the age of 6 to 15 had to take out 1 hour every day to receive all kinds of training from the Chambord Civil and Military Academy. It was also recorded into the kingdom's law book, so it had to be complied with, and no parents could stop it or else it would be considered illegal. The so-called Chambord Civil and Military Academy was established in the mansion of the former head minister Bazar. After some simple restructuring, the environment and the condition were very good. What made everyone go crazy in Chambord was that the teachers in the academy included people such as the number 1 warrior Frank Lampard and the new military guru Brooke. King Alexander even personally took on the role of principal at the academy. After hearing of the teachers and instructors at the academy, everyone scrambled to put their children into the Chambord Civil and Military Academy. Some poor families were still worrying about the high cost, but after hearing that the academy didn't charge any fees, all their fears vanished. On Azeroth continent where people followed the rule of the jungle, there wasn't a single parent that didn't want their kids to become strong warriors or powerful mages. These dreams were unreachable for them, but after hearing King Alexander's command, their unreachable dreams were getting closer to them than they ever imagined. They could even smell it. They all knew that the word gift was more fitting than the word command. It was the generous gift from the kind King Alexander. Letting their kids get instructed by the strong star-ranked warriors was an opportunity for their kids to change their own destinies and lives. Great and merciful King Alexander. Chambord had never been so busy and cheerful these past couple of days. The young King Alexander continued to bring his subjects one unexpected surprise after another. The citizens had gotten used to wearing the good-looking and comfortable trousers when they chatted and drank. When they proudly talked about their son or daughter getting praised by Mr. Lampard, they were always tempted to shout, "Long live the king!" as they hit their wine glasses together, sending their young king the best wishes with stunning sounds. Of course, Faye didn't relax either these couple of days. Except for taking care of trifling matters, he spent a ton of time in the royal library. He read almost all the books and his understanding of Azeroth continent grew exponentially. At the same time, Faye didn't give up on studying the various skills from the Diablo world. His barbarian was already level 20. The sorceress was level 10. His paladin was level 12 and his necromancer character was level 12. He also had accumulated about a dozen bottles of Hulk potion. Through these days of research and experimentation, Fei almost fully understood the effects this mutated potion. He felt it was time to use this potion to enhance the strength of the leaders in Chambord. Since more than 10 days ago, the little second commander of the King's Guards was promoted by the young King Alexander to the #1 seat in Chambord's military. Brooke now had control over all the military power in Chambord and was called one of the 2 gurus in Chambord along with the new head minister Bast. 1-star warrior Brooke's future skyrocketed and became one of the most influential figures in Chambord, above everyone else except for one person. Even the richest merchants who didn't even bother to acknowledge him before would now put on a big smile on their faces, invite Brooke to their parties frequently, and send him gifts and cute maids. People visited his place from morning till night every day. The hinges on his door were almost worn out because of it. If it was anyone else, this huge change in status would probably make them dizzy and get them carried away. However, this warrior born in a poor family had finally shown his integrity, boldness, and flexibility. To anyone who was trying to network and befriend him purposely, his principle was quite surprising. He would neither accept or coldly reject them. He would mildly satisfy everyone that came to his door. He used painstaking effort in order to achieve this. Chambord was currently greatly weakened after the war and needed to recover. Moreover, in half a year Chambord would have to take on another life and death challenge in Zenith's military practice. King Alexander said that the goal in front of them was to unite all the powers and strength they could and build up Chambord quickly with the least amount of resources. Therefore, Brooke didn't want to stimulate any hidden conflicts between the young king and the old-school nobles. He had to at least maintain a superficial friendliness. Except for burying his head into rectifying military affairs, Brooke spent a lot of his time on reforming the military planning. It was his main objective for the next 30 days. King Alexander had mentioned a few requirements and also vaguely expressed some stunning ideas. Brooke carefully studied and thought about these ideas. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. There were many things that he never considered. He was even confused and didn't understand when the king mentioned them for the first time. But slowly, he felt that those ideas and plans were impeccable. After tailoring those ideas to fit them into Chambord's current situation, Chambord would experience an enormous change for the better. Of course, as the power in his hands grew heavier and heavier, Brooke also felt huge unprecedented pressure. After King Alexander returned to normal, his strength and long-term vision both increased at an astonishing rate. Recently, during a chat in their free time at Chambord Civil and Military Academy, the #1 warrior Lampard actually implicitly admitted that the king's strength had increased to a level that he couldn't even estimate. He probably couldn't even defeat Alexander. That left people such as Brooke and Pierce a ton of pressure. They knew that if they wanted to follow the king in battle and bleed for Chambord, they had to improve their strength. That was essential. If they couldn't keep up with their majestic king, they would be gradually left behind and eventually become useless men. During this time, the strong men such as Pierce and Drogba got a set of strange training methods from the king and started to excessively train themselves every day. Brooke, on the other hand, was busy with military affairs and had limited time to train. He gradually felt that he was falling more and more behind and there was nothing that he could do. When he was struggling one day, Fei sent his guard Fernando Torres to Brooke along with a king's command. Mr. Brooke, His Majesty has asked you to head to his palace right away. There is something very important that His Majesty wants to talk to you about. Brooke was lost. He didn't remember Fei previously telling him that he wanted to discuss an important matter today. He followed Torres to the main palace. After he stepped into the palace, he was surprised to find out that the first commander of King's Guards Peterchek was sitting down on a chair and having a conversation with King Alexander. Except for the two of them, no one else was in the palace. Haha, Brooke, you got here just in time. I have something very important for you two to see. After seeing Brooke's arrival, Fei laughed as he walked down from his throne that was surrounded by 2 lion-like monster statues. He tapped Brooke's shoulder and suddenly opened up his palm. Check and Brooke both felt something flash in front of their eyes as a small green bottle appeared in Fei's palm. A green liquid was stored in the elongated crystal bottle. It had a light touch of magic power. This is... Both Czech and Brooke were surprised. This is a violent energy potion that I recently put together. Faye explained with his nonsense. He spoke proudly. But I prefer calling it Hulk Potion. This is a very magical potion. Faye paused a little bit to create more suspense. Hulk Potion? That name is very strange. Brooke could feel the light magic power hiding within the potion. He subconsciously asked, Your Majesty, what's the special effect of this potion? Of course, it has the effect of instantly increasing one's strength by a few times. Faye wanted to show off. It sounds like the mad potion that magic pharmacists put together, but the difference between the Hulk Potion and those low-class mad potions is that the strength-enhancing effect is permanent. Permanent improvement? Czech and Brooke were both flabbergasted. They stared at the potion in Faye's hand and gasped involuntarily. How is that possible? Could this be one of the epic potions from the legends? Under the mage classifications on Azeroth continent, there was a branch of magic pharmacists. These magic pharmacists could create a lot of strange potions. The potions all had different effects, and due to the differences in effects and materials required for each potion, there were many ranks from low to high. The epic potions from legends were one of the highly ranked potions. They all had incredible effects, and there were a few recorded epic potions that could permanently enhance one's strength. But those were all items from the legends. Epic potions could only be created by epic-leveled magic pharmacists. They also need a lot of rare and precious raw materials. These raw materials would even be considered rare by the level 8 and 9 super-powerful empires on the continent. Faye casually took out a potion that he claimed to have the same effect as epic potions, so Czech and Brooke naturally had a hard time believing their eyes and ears. Ah? Epic potion? How is that possible? I don't have any of those precious raw materials to make such a potion. Faye read a ton of books in the royal library, so he knew what the epic potions that the two were talking about was. He rolled his eyes and rejected that idea while smiling. Although the Hulk potion has such a powerful effect, it has a terrifying side effect. That's why I hesitated for a long time before telling you guys about it. If you guys can endure through the side effect, the real effect would definitely be satisfying. The potion is here. If you wish, you guys can decide among yourselves who wants to give it a try. Terrifying side effect? Brooke and Czech looked at each other in unison. The shock in their eyes quieted down a bit. They believed this explanation a lot more. If the potion didn't have any side effects and could enhance one's strength permanently and flawlessly, then this Hulk potion would definitely be ranked as one of the epic potions. It would be too precious. Brooke hesitated for a few seconds and suddenly raised his head and said, "Let me try it out." The date of Zenith's imperial military practice was getting closer and closer. There was nowhere that Chambord could back off to. If Chambord lost in this event, their kingdom would be gone. Even though Chambord had 2 trump cards, Lampard and King Alexander, the military practice was based on the total score for the 10 matches. There was no way that the kingdom could depend on just the 2 of them. If Chambord wanted an overall win, other people's strength had to improve as well. Time was tight, and to Gordon Brooke, who was single-mindedly focusing on increasing his strength and fighting alongside the king, the potion in front of him might have been dangerous, but perhaps it could be his last and only opportunity. Brooke made up his mind and reached out for the bottle of green potion. However, whoosh! Peter Czech, who was standing quietly beside Brooke, suddenly moved first and grabbed the Hulk potion. Before Brooke did, he pulled open the lid on the bottle and chugged down the entire bottle. You? Brooke panicked. Czech was only pardoned more than 10 days ago by the king and barely got out of Iron Prison water dungeon alive. He got ill from the moist and dark environment and the torture in the prison, so his body was very weak. His 2 energy swirls that represented his 2-star warrior strength and status was torn and ruined by the former head minister Bazar's vicious methods. All of his 2-star energy had mostly disappeared and his strength dropped significantly. Although he could get it back and return to being a 2-star warrior, it would take a long period of time. Czech's body was at its weakest stage. By taking this Hulk potion, which had a terrifying side effect, if he wasn't able to endure through it, his life might even be on the line. He knew that Czech didn't want him to take the risk, which was why he took the potion first. At this point, Brooke was very nervous. However, there was nothing that he could do. He could only stare at Czech closely. He didn't even dare to blink his eyes, because he was afraid that he might miss some signs of dangers. Faye, on the other side, was secretly laughing to himself shamelessly. After a few seconds, the side effects that Brooke was worrying about appeared. At first, a bright green light suddenly appeared on Czech's forehead between his eyebrows. It gave off an indescribable magic power. Then, it gradually began to spread downwards in a cloudy fashion. The green light became more and more dense, and soon Czech's head was dyed in green, and even his hair became green as well. Seemed very strange. At the same time, drops of sweat the size of beans started dripping down his green forehead. The muscles on his face also started twitching unconsciously. Clearly, he was under unimaginable pain. Brooke was shocked. He turned his head and looked at Faye, and found that he didn't panic at all. Instead, he had a faint smile on his face. This calmed Brooke down a little bit. He held back his worries and concerns and continued observing Czech's state. That green light was getting thicker and thicker and started spreading onto Czech's whole body. Starting from his head, it quickly covered his neck, chest, waist, arms, hands, and legs. After more than tens of seconds, the first commander of the King's Guard, Peter Czech, had become a green person. Even his arm hair was glittering green like a jade. This condition was no different than getting poisoned by exotic toxins. What worried Brooke more was that he could clearly see that it was as if there was something alive that was drilling and surging underneath Czech's skin. It created many bulges that continued rushing around in Czech's body. The blue veins bulged and sweat dripped down like rain. This process was obviously extremely painful. No wonder why it's called Hulk Potion. Czech is getting bigger and bigger, Brooke thought. Faye had a chill when he saw that. Faye tried the potion on himself when he was doing the experiments, and the pain of the body enhancement was unbearable. It was like having tens of thousands of ants crawling through his body and devouring every bit of his muscle, having someone cut the flesh off of him piece by piece and deep frying his entire body. Even though Faye was tough, he didn't want to experience this hellish pain ever again. This was especially true since the Hulk Potion wasn't effective on Faye. After half a minute, the painful expression on Czech's face toned down a bit, and the dense green light dimmed down. Suddenly, a powerful sensation came off of Czech's body. Brooke was very familiar with this sensation. He often felt this sensation from King Alexander. It was the sensation of a breathtaking and dragon-like pure physical strength. What surprised him even more was that this sensation was getting stronger and stronger. This meant that the strength in Czech's body was increasing very quickly. After another minute, the greenness on Czech was almost negligible, and the sensation finally stopped growing stronger. Czech exhaled heavily and finally opened his eyes. He observed his body and felt the long-lost strength. This strength was even more powerful than his former strength at his peak. He was so excited that tears filled his eyes. Before, when his energy swirls were destroyed by Bazar, he felt hopeless and thought that he was going to become a useless man. But now the light of hope shined through the dark clouds. He instantly turned around and kneeled down before Faye and said with an uncontrollable excitement on his face, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I have recovered. I can feel the monstrous strength in my body, and the energy channels in my body have widened by a few times. I can restore my 2-star warrior's energy at my peak state in less than half a year." Czech was so excited that his sentence structures weren't making any sense. After some rough observations, Czech had completely understood the effect of the Hulk Potion. Although his energy swirls didn't come back, his physical strength and his body's firmness had reached an unimaginable level. He could fight a 2-star warrior with pure physical strength. The effect didn't just stop there. What made him more excited was that the channels that the energy flowed through in his body was widened by a few times. This meant that when he started training his energy, his improvement speed would be faster than other ordinary warrior by a few times. The actual effect of the little Hulk Potion was far superior than the epic potions in the legends. Faye said calmly with a serious face, "Peter, don't be so overjoyed. Hulk Potion's terrifying side effect hasn't completely passed yet." "Ah," Check and Brooke, who were finally relieved, were surprised again when they heard that. What other side effects are there? It's this green light. See? The greenness on your body hasn't fully disappeared yet. According to my calculations, it needs 3 to 5 days to completely go away. Check asked with a strange face. Your Majesty? Was the terrifying side effect that you were talking about before this greenness over my entire body after taking the Hulk potion? Yes. Faye held back his laughter and nodded firmly. This greenness will take a long time to disappear. Isn't that terrifying? But right after he said that, he couldn't hold back anymore and started laughing loudly like a kid who had just pranked someone successfully. His kingly temperament instantly disappeared. Check and Brooke felt like they were about to faint. That counts as a terrifying side effect. Brooke? Check was a little bit embarrassed at this point. He was originally worried about the terrifying side effect and took the potion before Brooke could react. He wanted to take on the risks himself. Who knew that the king was only joking? Now, it looked like that he had jacked Brooke's opportunity of becoming stronger. It didn't matter if it were merits or official titles and positions. Brooke deserved it more. Check instantly regretted his action. Mr. Check. Brooke was still used to calling his former leader Mr. You're being too polite. If Chambord can get another powerful warrior and increase the chance of us winning the upcoming Zenith military practice, it doesn't matter who takes this potion. Brooke's words were really sincere and didn't feel fake or superficial at all. Check didn't know what to say. Faye on the side nodded secretly. He knew that he had chosen the right person. This one-star warrior was just dependable and had integrity. The best part of all was that he was extremely loyal to him. Actually, you guys don't need to panic. As Faye was speaking, he flicked his wrist and another bottle of Hulk potion appeared in his hand out of nowhere. I have a few more bottles of this potion. Check and Brooke were about to go crazy. Both of them stared at Faye with resentment. At this moment, they finally knew that they had been pranked by the young king and everything was a friendly joke. Brooke drank the other bottle of Hulk potion in excitement. In his prior experiments, Faye had tried the potion on animals like chickens, pigs, and cows, as well as on a few heinous prisoners on death row. He had accumulated a good understanding regarding the effects, dosage, side effects, and long-term effects. After experiencing the indescribable pain, Brooke gained a huge boost in strength. His physical strength was enough to take on a 2-star warrior. The energy channels in his body had also expanded. This had a more significant long-term effect. It meant that Brooke, who was average in terms of energy training, had suddenly become a genius at it. To maximize the efficiency of the Hulk potion, one would need to train. Therefore, the remaining potion was still stored in their bodies. When looking at them closely, the greenness on Brooke's and Check's skin could still be seen. They looked at each other and laughed. The king's action of continuously taking out such potions with ridiculous effects had shocked both Brooke and Check. If this information leaked out, many people would fight and start a war to get their hands on the potion. They now knew why the king talked to them in private. Except for Faye's personal guard Fernando Torres, all the other guards had been dismissed. Hulk potion? S effect is astonishing, but it doesn't accumulate, so it only works once. The effect will be minimal if you guys take it again. However, you guys shouldn't relax on your training. I do have some extra potions on hand, but there aren't a lot. They're all for the improvement of Chambord's overall strength. You two are the ones that I trust the most, as well as ones who took the Hulk potions. First, remember, this matter must be kept confidential and can never be exposed. For the reason of your increase in strength, think of ways to explain it yourselves. We have to be very careful on this matter. You guys know exactly why we must be. After their excitement, Faye returned onto his dual lion statue-clustered throne on the stairs and suddenly switched back to paladin mode. The holy and majestic temperament of a level 12 paladin instantly filled the hall. The majestic sensation surged in the hall like tides. At this time, Faye had restored the king's superior prestige, controlling everything like an inviolable god. After hearing Faye's words, Brooke and Check finally knew that they were the first ones that touched the Hulk potion. Their hearts were filled with gratitude. They felt their blood boiling. Both of them kneeled down and said in unison, "Rest assured, Your Majesty. No one will know about this." Fei nodded in satisfaction. He suddenly opened his hand and another bottle of Hulk potion appeared in his palms. He pushed it out and the level 12 paladin's aura wrapped around the potion and slowly flew into Brooke's hand. Fei continued, "When you get back, immediately choose 200 loyal soldiers with clean backgrounds. Then, dilute this bottle of Hulk potion into 4 barrels of clean water and feed it to the 200 soldiers in the next 3 days. This way, although they won't receive the same benefit that you two received, it will still be a good boost in the soldier's strength and physique. Remember, these 200 soldiers will be the elite force that participates in the Zenith Imperial military exercise. We couldn't afford any kind of carelessness. They must be carefully selected. Loyalty comes first, and ability comes second. It would be the best if all of them were born in Chambord. Brooke, after you finish that, hand these soldiers over to Commander Check and let him train and direct them. I want the 2 of you to build an invincible iron force for Chambord in the next 6 months. Can you 2 accomplish it?" "Yes, Your Majesty. There's absolutely no problem." Brooke held onto the potion tightly, as if he was holding the key to a peerless treasure. He said with full confidence, "With the help of this Hulk potion that can compare to epic potions, we can absolutely construct an elite force of terrifying strength. Our chances of winning in the military exercise half a year from now will increase by a lot." Even Check, who was taciturn, nodded excitedly and said, "Your Majesty, Peter Check guarantees to build you an invincible iron force in less than 6 months." Fei nodded. He wasn't concerned about accidents that might occur when using Hulk potion. Before, when he was testing the Hulk potion, he discovered a satisfying phenomenon regardless of whether it was a human or an animal. After taking the full potion and enduring a few minutes of severe pain worse than death, the test subjects all had a huge boost in strength and instinctively developed a heartfelt dependency towards Fei, which made them become more loyal towards him. It was like the emotions that kids had toward their parents. After some deep thinking, Fei believed that this phenomenon was caused by the weak spiritual energy in the potion. When every Hulk potion was created, they all contained some weak spiritual energy in them, as if they had lives and had some intimacy towards Fei, like a newborn lingering onto its mother. It seemed like that weak spiritual energy quietly affected the user of the potion's soul and increased their loyalty towards Fei. The incident of Hulk potion had come to an end. In the next 10 minutes, Fei and Brooke chatted about the restriction of Chambord's military. Fei wasn't some kind of military genius, so he only briefly outlined some main principles from his memories and knowledge from Earth. However, it deeply inspired Brooke. During the chat, Check also gave some great recommendations. Fei realized that this first commander of the King's Guards was also quite talented in military affairs. During the chat, Brooke happily recorded 3 full animal skins worth of notes. After seeing that it was getting late, Brooke and Check got up and bowed as they left the palace. Finally, only Fei and his personal guard Fernando Torres were left in the hall. After he felt the shiny eyes staring at his back, Fei turned around and saw Torres staring at him eagerly. Fei knew what he was thinking and directly asked, "Fernando, do you also want a bottle of Hulk potion to increase your strength?" Torres hesitated a little. He knew that the potion was extremely valuable and limited. However, he wasn't able to resist the temptation of power and kneeled down as he answered honestly, "Your Majesty, it's my greatest honor to be able to follow you. I want to fight for your Majesty, but I'm too weak. I even have a hard time holding up a sword. Therefore, I beg your Majesty to grant me a bottle of Hulk potion. One of the Hulk potion is yours, but I can't give it to you right now." Fei gestured Torres to stand up as he continued. "The effect of this potion is significant, but the potion itself is extremely brutal. An ordinary person is not able to endure the unbearable pain during the body transformation process. If you pass out, it would damage your body severely. Both Mr. Brooke and Mr. Check are strong warriors that have fought numerous battles, and they have the basic strength and mental toughness to handle the painful process and successfully benefit from the potion. You, on the other hand, are still too weak and can't bear the brutal impact of the potion. If I give you the potion now, it would be a disservice. If you want to quickly reach the minimum requirement to take the potion, go find Pierce and Drogba. Train with them according to the method that I gave them. Once your body becomes strong enough, I will give you the potion. After hearing Faye's explanation, the expression on Tora's face turned from the initial disappointment to hopefulness. He clutched his fists excitedly and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will go find Mr. Pierce right now." After he said that, the blond boy turned around and rushed out of the hall. Faye looked at the boy's back and laughed quietly. After his observations for the last couple of days, the blond boy Fernando Torres had great potential. He was clever, thoughtful, brave, and honest. He had all the necessary qualities of a true warrior. He also grew up in Chambord and was loyal to the kingdom. He looked up to Faye as an idol and worshipped Faye as a god. Faye had no reason to not promote this young man. The only thing holding him back was that Torres was still too young. So Faye wanted to sharpen him a little bit more first. However, the brutal damage of the potion that Faye was talking about was true. He didn't exaggerate in the slightest. In his prior experiments, there were a total of 18 sheep, 33 pigs, and numerous little animals such as chicken, ducks, and geese that had died from the potion. Even most of the heinous prisoners Oleg brought to Faye who were on death row died during the process of the body transformation. This was the dark side of the potion. Faye sat in the hall for a little bit longer and thought through everything that had happened and made sure that nothing was left out. He exhaled slowly as he switched to barbarian mode. After looking around and making sure that no one was around, he stared at the open space in front of him and inexplicably whispered, "Elena, you can come out now." As soon as he finished, a slight buzzing noise sounded. A small blue flash of brilliance appeared in the mid-air that grew larger and larger. Soon, it formed a huge blue oval-shaped door. It gradually stabilized itself as blue light circulated on its surface. It was actually a portal from the Diablo world. Then, a beautiful figure slowly emerged through the portal and appeared in the king's palace. Her red hair was like a cloud of fire burning in the air. Numerous mystic magic symbols were engraved onto the set of delicate armor, and magic power circulated on its surface. The white leather long boots covered up her knees like spreading vines. Her smooth thighs were exposed, slender and beautiful. They were as white as snow and exuded a breathtaking and seductive charm. The sky-blue battle skirt covered up her alluring round hips. Her waist was like a swinging willow. It was so slender that it could be gripped with just two hands. Her chest was still outstanding under the light leather armor. Her fabulous face made people felt guilty when they looked at her. Her temperament was 3/10 apathetic, 3/10 elegant, and 4/10 stunning. This was Andelish Elena, a stern, inviolable Valkyrie, and the prettiest flower of rogue in the entire Diablo world. She quietly came through the portal as if she traveled through space and time. She appeared in the hall and stood in front of Faye. Elena's beauty had blossomed. For a long time since the last flower of rogue, Andariel's unimaginably fell in love with the Lord of Terror Diablo and became demonified. No one on the rogue continuate was able to be regarded as a flower of rogue until the elegant Elena was born. This young rogue warrior quickly conquered the entire rogue continent with her beauty and bravery. "Mr. Faye, I heard your summons from rogue encampment." Elena bowed and saluted Faye in the same manner that people in the Diablo world saluted their king. "Do you have something for me to do?" "Elena, you can call me Alexander from now on." Faye pointed at a stone chair beside him. He smiled as he asked, "Take a seat. How did it go? I believe you've told Priestess Akira and Leader Xianxia everything about this world, right?" "Yes. I have conveyed the information to the two leaders according to your command, Alexander, Your Majesty." Elena quickly got used to the name Alexander. In the last 10 days or so, she had gone from the initial surprise and shock to a serene calmness. She had completely phased position and status in this world. When she was summoned to Zenith Continent by Faye accidentally through the portal 10 days ago or so, Elena was shocked by the quietness and beauty of this world. There weren't any monsters or demons, and there weren't invasions and pollution from the evil powers from hell. There were only clean air, fresh water, lush plants, and healthy green mountains. Everything here was thriving and flourishing. There was literally no difference between this place and the heaven that everyone was talking about in the Diablo world. Elena fell in love with this world at first sight. In the last 10 days, she was able to come to Chambord Castle for 4 hours every day and observe and study everything in Chambord as a guest under Faye's permission. This included the rules of this world, Faye's identify, Chambord's status and rotation between day and night from the sun and moon. After she understood everything, with Faye's permission, Elena passed on all her knowledge to the 2 leaders at Rogue Encampment, Akira and Xianxia. Good. Thank you for your hard work. Oh right, later someone will bring you to a place. Please observe that place carefully and tell me your discoveries. Faye didn't behave like a king in front of Elena at all. He casually handed her a big red apple and smiled. So have Leader Akira and Xianxia made any decisions yet about my prior proposals? They both have agreed. However, Leader Akira hopes Chambord could help out Rogue Encampment a little bit in terms of food. Elena was surprised. She quickly took the apple as a trace of redness appeared on her white face. She lowered her head and replied, "Oh, food? I can only give it a try and see if I can convert food into the Diablo world." Faye thought about it and said, "On this matter, I will discuss it with them personally later." At this moment, the guards outside of the palace shouted to inform Faye that Warden Oleg had arrived and was waiting outside. "Let him in." As soon as he finished, Warden Oleg rushed in excitedly. His face was red and all the fat on his face were shivering, as if something great had happened. He humbly kneeled down and crawled a few more steps forward until he reached Faye. He bowed to the floor to salute Faye as he smiled and fawned. "I'm here to report back to your majesty. Great news, ha ha ha. The new prison has officially been completely, and it's ready to be used immediately." As he was talking, he quickly noticed Elena, who was sitting on the side. His heart was instantly shocked by the beauty of this flower of Rogue. However, Oleg didn't have any evil and lustful intents. For one, he clearly knew that this girl was very likely having an intimate relationship with King Alexander. He could tell from the way that she was looking at His Majesty. Also, Oleg was at least an 1-star warrior. He vividly felt Elena's powerful level that was far greater than 1-star rank. He also understood the value of her full magic engraved armor. All of these things clearly told Oleg to kill any kinds of dirty thoughts. He couldn't offend the girl in front of him, otherwise he would die painfully. After hearing Oleg's report, Faye nodded in satisfaction and said, "Great, you've done a good job. I'm glad. Now organize some jailers and transfer all the prisoners from Iron Prison Water Dungeon to the new prison. From today onwards, completely seal up the water dungeon. No one is allowed to enter without my permission. Your command is my life, Your Majesty." Oleg was excited to receive Faye's praise. He spoke loudly to announce his loyalty. One more thing. This MS. Elena is my friend. Faye was about to use the word trusted subordinate or confidant, but he felt the word friend was more suitable. He continued, "After you finish transferring the prisoners, lead Elena to the Iron Prison Water Dungeon for a visit. Remember, don't ask any questions. Come back to the palace by yourself after she finishes. I have some great rewards to give to you. God bless you, bright and merciful king." Oleg's teeth were about to break due to excitement after he heard that there were rewards. After meeting with the king more often, he had an even deeper understanding of Faye's character. Once Faye said that there were great rewards, that meant that the rewards must be good stuff. Then, another series of flatters showered Faye. "Elena, just follow him. That place is a bit strange. You might find something, but there is a huge black iron gate. Don't go behind there for now, all right?" Elena stood up, nodded, and followed Warden Oleg out of the king's palace. After seeing both of them disappear from the gates of the hall, Faye licked his lips and rubbed his temples. There were too many things to do these days. Although he was acting like a hands-off king that passed on the majority of tasks onto Brooke and Bast, he was still extremely busy and didn't have time to breathe. There was a light bluegrass fragrance still in the air. It was left by Elena when she was sitting down. The golden sunlight passed by the huge stone god statues and shined into the palace. Faye showered in the sunlight, closed his eyes and smelled the wonderful fragrance. His thoughts and thinking patterns suddenly became fluent and cheerful as ever, and his memory traced back to 12 days ago. 12 days ago, after Faye designed 10 sets of male and female clothes and scared away his cute fiancée with a design of bras, he had nothing to do. Therefore, he tried to communicate with the cold, mysterious voice in his mind and return back to Diablo World. Diablo World Rogue Encampment. As soon as he stepped onto Rogue Encampment, he was surrounded by crazy cheers around him. He looked around and was surprised to find out that Priestess Akira and military leader Xianxia led everyone at the camp to kneel down and devoutly pray before the place where he left the Diablo World last time. When they saw his appearance, everyone jumped up and started cheering unstoppably. Mr. Faye, you have finally returned. A smile appeared Akira's old face like a dandelion flower, while Xianxia and the other people also stared at Faye in excitement. Expressions of respect and admiration were on everyone's face. Faye rarely saw those expressions from the NPCs. What happened? Faye wasn't used to the NPCs' enthusiasm. This rare situation made Faye feel like these people wanted something from him. Mr. Faye, you have killed the evil demon leader Andariels and opened up the path from Rogue Continent to the east. According to the blood oath of covenant from our ancestors, you are now the supreme leader. Elena, who was standing beside him, notified him quietly. I'm now the supreme leader of Rogue Encampment. Faye stunned. He suddenly remembered that, when he was leaving Diablo World last time, Elena didn't mention that to him. He turned around and looked at Akira, Xianxia and others, and didn't try to hide his delight. Is that true? Am I now really the supreme leader of Rogue Encampment? Yes, that's right. Although Akira wanted to beat his face with the bottom of her shoe after seeing his insolent and shameless expression, the matter related to the covenant from their ancestors, so she couldn't be disobedient. She had to reply patiently. People such as Xianxia and Charsi also nodded to confirm. Haha, does that mean that I don't have to pay anything to Akira for potions and scrolls? Or to Xianxia for hiring mercenaries? Or to Charsi for buying equipment and items? Ha 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 ha. Faye's laugh was very shameless. It was almost his nature. This treacherous and shameless idea popped into his head almost instantly after he knew he was now the supreme leader. A great life was waving its hands at Faye coquettishly, as if it was so close. Faye could also smell it. However, that's impossible. Even with the covenant from our ancestors, the supreme leader couldn't get everything for free in the camp. Mr. Faye, I have to notify you that as the supreme leader, you do have the power to drive everyone in the camp to service you, and you also have the power to constrain everyone. However, you also have the obligation to protect and fight for everyone. Every building, every cow, even every chicken. I have told you a long time ago that everything in this world is balanced. Of course, to show respect to the supreme leader, from today on, you can purchase from anyone at half price, including my potions and scrolls. Greedy Akira said as she gnashed her teeth. Her words shattered Faye's dream of getting everything for free. Half price. Faye rubbed his chin in disappointment. He had no choice but to nod and say, although it's still expensive, half price is a great deal. Honorable Faye, we are planning to open the pledge altar from our ancestors. After the altar ritual, you will officially become the supreme leader at Rogue Encampment. The white-bearded Cane separated the crowd and saluted Faye with a cane in the hand. According to the legends on Rogue Continent, every supreme leader can acquire 3 legendary miraculous skills from the great god. The timing is perfect. Let's start the altar ritual quickly. Faye realized that everything in the Diablo world was going towards an unknown direction. What surprised Faye was that the altar from the ancestors of the camp was not in an obvious location in Rogue Encampment. Under Akira's lead, Faye and other locals arrived at her small tent that was located on the southwest corner of the camp. Faye had been here numerous times. Cracked and broken bottles and jars that had moss and vines growing on them were laying around everywhere. The air close to the tent smelled pungent. It was the smell of incomplete potions. Akira's tent was very small. It was even a little ragged. Faye had questioned how this small tent could accommodate one person more than once, even if that person was someone small and thin like Priestess Akira. However, this time he was stunned. Faye's mouth opened wide after he saw Akira, Xianxia and Kane bending their backs and walking into the tent one by one. He was extremely curious. Is there a secret underground cave in the tent? If not, how could the small tent fit so many people? Soon, almost everyone at Rogue Encampment had went into the tent, and Faye's mouth opened to its max. Elena poked Faye with her cold little hand. "Mister, we should go in now." Faye had to go in there. He was even planning to crawl in if there wasn't enough space. However, after he bent his back, entered the tent and looked up, he was extremely shocked. How could someone call this place a tent? It was definitely a magnificent grand palace. There was an open view. Faye was now in a huge hall, and a long corridor that Faye couldn't even see the end of was connected to it. Chairs and tables were set up orderly in the hall, and there were a lot of doors along both sides of corridor. Faye couldn't count how many rooms there were. This is spatial magic? After the short moment of shock, Faye quickly understood what was going on. It was crazy. Akira's ragged tent was the entrance to an unrivaled huge space. Through this small tent, Faye entered a space that he never seen before. But after some deep thinking, it was only normal for Rogue Encampment to have such a mysterious place. After all, the camp had existed for more than millions of years. It was even here when the war millions of years ago between heaven and hell had begun. After the accumulation throughout history, if the camp was as shabby as it seemed and only had that little power and means, then the camp would have been razed to the ground by the demons and monsters on the moor. There was no reason why. Bloodraven, the Smith, Griswold, and the final boss, Andariels, couldn't wipe out this place. There was only one reason why this camp could survive throughout the wars, battles, and historical events: power. It was obvious that Rogue Encampment had an unknown power that Faye didn't know about. As everyone walked further into the palace, they all passed a hall that looked like it was for meeting. Faye still couldn't see the end of the corridor. Akira and Xianxia were at the very front of the crowd. They were walking extremely slowly and Faye wanted to catch up. But at this moment, something strange occurred. He unbelievably found out that the faster he ran, the longer the distance between him and Akira and Xianxia got. Soon, he could only see Akira's vague figure. What's going on? Faye was perplexed. Mister. Faye, the time and space in this place is reversed. The slower you go, the longer the actual distance you will travel. You don't have to walk so fast. Elena was always beside Faye as she whispered to remind him. Faye was surprised, but he finally understood the secret to this space. Faye gave Elena a thankful smile and started to walk slowly. He found that he was actually going faster than when he was running. Although he was only taking small steps, the doors and rooms were passing him by like wind. He felt like he was walking on a fast-moving conveyor belt going in the same direction. Faye slowed his steps down even further as if he was moving at a snail's pace. But under the rules of this mysterious space, he moved even faster. In an eye blink, Faye had magically caught up to Priestess Akira, who was walking slowly and leading everyone at the front. Wow, such a magical space. Where are we going? Faye tried to start a conversation. Ancestor's altar. The priestess' response was concise. How far do we still have to go? We have arrived. Akira paused her steps as she said. Faye looked ahead and his weak little heart was shocked again. At the end of the corridor, a huge and wide mysterious space appeared out of nowhere. A 30 or 40-yard, tall altar made from black stone stood quietly in the middle of the space like a skyscraper. The diameter of this altar was longer than 50 yards, and it was layered with an unknown black stone. There were a total of 9 levels. The further up the level, the smaller the space. It almost looked like a black wedding cake. There were a thin set of stairs on 4 sides of the altar that led to the highest 9th level. Only about 4 or 5 people could fit on the 9th level. Looking at the altar from afar, Stones on every level were fully engraved with mysterious and profound magic patterns and symbols. They looked like spreading vines and words of an unknown language. Except for the magic patterns, there were also countless ancient paintings. The content was all different. There were hideous demons, howling monsters, battling warrior and chanting mages. The entire altar was black. It stood in the space quietly and created an ancient feeling around it, as if it was silently telling the mysterious history that was buried in the dust of time, but also as if it was showing the ruthlessness and terrifying nature of time. Faye could clearly feel a hint of mythical pressure emitted by the altar and filling the entire space. "This is our ancestors' covenant altar," Priestess Akira said with a rare solemn expression on her face. It had a bit of holiness, as if the altar was the shrine in her heart. She said to Faye, "After you climb up the altar through the stairways on the east and reach the 9th level, by praying devoutly, God will gift you 3 miraculous abilities. Go ahead, Mr. Faye." After she said that, she and other residents of Rogue Encampment kneeled to the ground and started singing a song in a mysterious and ancient language very deeply. A holy natural atmosphere surrounded everyone. Visible holy energy emerged from their bodies and slowly injected itself into the black altar like meteors, dragging out a long tail behind them. Faye walked up the altar step by step on the thin stone stairway that was located on the east side. When he finally arrived on the 9th level, the black altar under his feet seemed like it had finally absorbed enough holy energy coming from the rogues' bodies, and gradually new changes occurred. From the very bottom level of the altar, every level started to rotate and turn under a strange, inexplicable pattern, as if it was a precise instrument that was calibrating to match a mysterious waveform. The sensation of ancient atmosphere emerged again, and it was even stronger this time. Faye forced himself to endure the huge shock and watched everything that was happening calmly. All the things happening in front of him were completely beyond his imagination. These incidents never occurred in Faye's most familiar game on Earth. At this moment, some things were developing in a direction that was outside of Faye's memories. Suddenly, boom! An earth-shattering noise sounded, and the black altar under Faye's feet finally stopped turning. Everything in Faye's sight changed, as if the altar was teleported somewhere else. People like Akira who were beside the altar had all disappeared. It was as if the entire altar had moved to the space among the stars by someone who had unlimited powers. Faye looked around and found bright stars everywhere. There were no directions of north, east, south, west, or up or down. Faye felt like he was in a cosmic vacuum. Before Faye could be surprised, suddenly, a beam of white light shined out of nowhere and covered his entire body. It felt similar to the beam that shined on him when he leveled up, but the power and pressure of this beam was far greater than the white beam of light he experienced when he was leveling up. For a moment, all of Faye's senses went black, and only a cold and majestic voice echoed in his mind. "Supreme God, endless years, infinite space, time of eternity. According to the blood oath of covenant from the rogue's ancestors, weak human Faye, you have killed Andiriel, one of the 4 gurus from hell, and you shall receive 3 miraculous skills from the mighty gods. These 3 miraculous skills are: learn, give, and summon. Human, prepare to accept the gift from the gods." As soon as the cold, majestic voice finished, the white beam of light started to surge and wash Faye's body over and over again. This process was like being anesthetized during a surgery. Faye didn't feel any pain or itch, but he could clearly feel the incredible changes undergoing in every single cell in his body. Below the altar, Ms. Akira. Could there be any accidents? 3 hours had passed by already. Seeing the huge altar completely buried in the milky white light sphere, anxious and worrying expressions appeared on Elena's face. She couldn't help but ask the spiritual leader of the camp impatiently, "Elena, my child, don't worry. This is our ancestors and God's decree." Akira looked at the flower of Rogue, who was a little restless beside her, and a smile came on her face. She comforted Elena with a kind expression that Faye never saw before. In the legends on the Rogue continent, every flower of Rogue would encounter the man who would change her life forever. Andiriel met Diablo and you met Faye. This is what the Wheel of Fortune had already prepared for you guys. Elena, my child, I can foresee your future. You all? Boom! As Akira was speaking, loud noises sounded beside her ear. She paused and looked in the direction the noise came from with everyone else. The white light flame sphere that embedded the altar was slowly disappearing. They could finally see everything on the altar again. On top of the thin stairways, Faye, who just finished the whole ritual, was coming down step by step. An excited expression appeared on Elena's face as she rushed towards Faye. After observing Faye carefully and making sure that Faye was unscathed, her fast-beating heart finally slowed down and she sighed in relief. A faint smile also popped on her white, smooth and spotless face. I'm all right, relax. Faye felt the girl's worry and laughed as he held on and squeezed her cold little hand. Elena was extremely embarrassed. She blushed as she struggled to escape from Faye's big hand and quickly lowered her head and returned to the crowd. After taking the same route back out of Akira's magical space tent, there was only about less than half an hour of gaming time left for today. Faye didn't rush out of the camp onto the moor to kill more monsters. Instead, he stayed at the camp and chatted with Akira, Xianxia, the two leaders at the camp, and the white-bearded, obscene old man Kane. No one knew that they talked about, and no one knew what kind of 3 miraculous skills Faye had acquired. More or less, when Faye left the Diablo world again, the residents of the camp saw an unprecedented relieved expression on Ms. Akira's face. Alright, that's the 3 regular from last week. Next up are the 2 boner chaps and 2 regular from this week. On the same day that Faye exited the Diablo world, he found out that both Angela and Emma had been invited by Princess Xianxia to her place to hang out again. He felt that this eldest princess of Zenith Empire was quite interesting. She never showed herself in Chambord since her arrival. Even when Faye executed a few cavalries of Zenith and the deputy captain of the Royal Canonization Legion, she didn't appear or say anything. As the commander of the Royal Canonization Legion, she didn't ask Faye to meet up with her or voluntarily come to him. As if she was on a vacation, instead of getting ready to formally crown Faye as the king of Chambord, she didn't mention the canonization at all and instead wanted to get closer to the future Queen Angela. She frequently sent her servants to invite Angela to her place to hang out. Faye didn't bother to stop here. He wasn't afraid that the elder princess might take Angela hostage. It was his vague instinct. At least for now, this princess of Zenith's attitude towards Chambord was safe. Faye was currently very busy. Extremely busy. Faye had 2 short-term goals. One was to increase his strength, and the other was to increase Chambord's strength. He could achieve the first goal by going to the Diablo world, and he could use the Hulk potion to achieve his second goal. The only disappointing thing was that Faye's success rate of finding Hulk potion was way too low. It was less than 4%. Also, it was only effective for people who had the required strength. For example, Czech and Brooke, who were star-ranked warriors, were able to obtain the strength boost from the potion, but people who were weaker, like the thin and tall mercenary in the Iron Prison water dungeon, could benefit from the potion too. However, if an ordinary man like the old handsome Bass took the potion, he would burst into pieces within tens of seconds after taking it. Ordinary people couldn't handle the pain of the body transformation. It would feel like their internal organs and muscles were being torn apart. What Faye experienced when he just entered the Diablo world was unprecedented. The so-called Ancestors' Blood Oath of Covenant, the mysterious space inside Akira's tent, and the Black Altar had never appeared in Faye's memory about the Diablo game on Earth. From that point on, everything in the Diablo world seemed to deviate from his prior gaming experience. It even made Faye question whether killing monsters and leveling up in the Diablo world was really a game, or if it was something else with the game as a cover. Faye was thinking about the 3 miraculous skills: learn, give, and summon the whole night. When Faye acquired the 3 miraculous skills on the Black Altar in Diablo world, he didn't know how to use them right away. In other words, when Faye was embedded in the mysterious white light beam on the altar, except for cleansing his body and increasing his strength and firmness, Faye didn't have any substantial gains. The cold and mysterious voice only told Faye that he needed to discover the casting method and effects on his own in the future. It would purely depend on his intelligence and luck. He could possibly get them right away, or he might not be able to get them until the end of his life. Damn. This irresponsible answer is too crappy, Faye thought. After a night and nothing gained, Faye started to question the authenticity of the 3 miraculous skills. The ancestors of Rogue Encampment might have put them out to motivate their descendants. However, at dawn of the next day, something miraculous happened. Faye accidentally triggered the miraculous skill summon. He actually opened up a portal and summoned mercenary Frost Archer Elena from the Diablo world into the real world. He was ecstatic at that moment. Faye was in a complete shock. It wasn't only because he triggered summon, but it was more because the sun hadn't risen yet, so the people in the Diablo world hadn't gotten up yet. Therefore, when Elena was summoned to him through the portal, she wasn't wearing much clothing. He had gotten a great view of her body. The round arc sketched out the most beautiful sceneries in the world. With the slightly messy hair and the sleepy expression on her beautiful face, Faye was almost turned to stone and his nose almost started shooting out blood. Elena, on the other side, obviously didn't fully wake up yet and was half asleep. A few seconds later, the Archer Beauty finally realized the situation she was in. She screamed and covered up her chests with her arms, stared at Faye angrily for a second, and rushed back to the Diablo world before the portal in the king's palace could close. After he got himself together from the brief shock from this peerless beauty, Faye quickly started to try to remember his actions and words before triggering summon again. After tracing back, he eventually skeptically determined one thing. About a few seconds ago, he subconsciously murmured, "If only Elena was here, maybe she could help me figure this out." Then the miracle occurred. A blue oval portal appeared after a light buzzing noise, similar to when he used a town portal scroll. Then the almost naked Elena appeared after that. Faye figured out the key to successfully casting it and excitedly tried several times. Sure enough, after about 20 seconds, he managed to open the portal and summon Elena from the Diablo world again. Faye was only a bit disappointed because this time Elena was definitely prepared. She was fully dressed and armored, and traveled through the portal and appeared in front of Faye. Faye was stoked after this success. He then tried to summon everyone in the camp, including Priestess Akira, military leader Xianxia, and blacksmith Charsi. However, Faye was surprised to find out that he wasn't able to summon anyone except for Elena from Rogue Encampment to the real world. The specific reason was unknown. After a full day of trial and error, he came to the conclusion, due to some unknown reason, the miraculous skill summon was only able to summon Elena, and the process and method of summoning was quite simple. If Faye wanted, he could open up a blue oval portal in mid-air and summon Elena from the Diablo world to the real world. Of course, restrictions applied. First of all, summon was only available under barbarian mode. Next, summon would consume mana. With the mana of a level 16 barbarian, Faye could only summon Elena 3 times. After that, he had to drink a mana potion before summoning her a 4th time. Like that, an unconscious behavior by chance had revealed a portion of the thin veil covering the miraculous skill summon. Faye guessed that summon was ranked as a miraculous skill, so it must be able to summon more than just Elena. Logically speaking, people such as Akira and Xianxia in the camp could be summoned as well, but for whatever reason, he wasn't able to do so. Except for summon the other 2 miraculous skills. Learn and give? He had acquired on the Black Altar still had no desire to reveal their inner secrets to him. After Faye spent more than 10 days trying to figure them out, he still got nothing out of it. There weren't any clues, so he didn't know what to do. However, Faye didn't panic. Being able to summon Elena to the real world was already a pleasant surprise for Faye. Elena was a level 14 magic archer and equal to a 3-star warrior on Azeroth continent. To Chambord, this was an addition of a strong master that could easily tilt the balance on the scale of victory. In the military exercise half a year from now, because of Elena's existence, Fikold almost guarantee another win in the 6 individual competitions. There was about half a year left after all. In this time, Elena's strength could increase significantly after fighting and leveling up alongside Faye in the Diablo world. In the next couple days, Faye summoned Elena to Chambord Kingdom. Although there was a time limit of 4 hours a day, It didn't stop the beauty mercenary from observing and merging into the real world like an extremely thirsty traveler finding a lake and drinking the water in a desert. In Elena's eyes, the quiet and beautiful Chambord was no different from the heaven described in the rogue ancestors' tales. When she stepped into Chambord Kingdom and peeked out the window for the first time, she fell in love with it. "This is a beautiful paradise, Mr. Faye. If I have to, I'm willing to bleed and die for this land, just like how I fought for Rogue Encampment." Elena showered in the sunlight of Chambord's sunset, as she said to Faye with a smile on her face. Faye nodded. He felt the same way as Elena. He fell in love and was deeply obsessed with this beautiful and peaceful land. In the following days, Elena merged into Chambord Kingdom at an astonishing speed. The only difference was that Elena didn't show herself to anyone in Chambord except for Faye. Even when she saw the pure, crystal-like girl Angela and knew that she was Faye's fiancée, she simply suppressed her own sudden dejection and hid herself. Until about 30 minutes ago, no one knew that a hot magic archer that had the same strength as a 3-star warrior had appeared in Chambord. Currently in the king's palace, Warden Oleg was the first Chambordian that knew of Elena's existence. It could even be said that he was the first Azerothian that knew of her existence. Although this fucker is a flatterer and is afraid of death, his luck seems to be better than everyone else's. Faye thought about Oleg and felt a bit strange. Faye finally knew why the emperors in the ancient times would use corrupted and eloquent ministers and officers even though they knew their characters. For some reason, Faye felt safer to use corrupted and eloquent ministers and officers like Oleg to complete some tasks compared to people like Brooke. Faye sat in the executive hall in the king's palace for a little while and suddenly remembered that Elena mentioned Rogue Encampment needing some food supplies. He ordered a guard to gather some winter wheat seeds and put them into his barbarian storage belt. After calculating the time and knowing that it would take a while for Oleg and Elena to get back from the underground maze at the back of Chambord, he dismissed the guards and used some mana to open up a portal in the king's palace, and then he stepped into it. When Faye's figure disappeared in the blue oval light portal, the entire portal suddenly disappeared. There weren't any magic fluctuations left in the room. It was like a bursting bubble, leaving no traces behind. In the next second, Faye arrived at Rogue Encampment through the portal. This was the byproduct of one of 3 miraculous skills, summon, when it was first triggered by Faye. If he wanted to enter the Diablo world from that point on, he didn't have to communicate with the cold and mysterious voice in his head. All he had to do was use some mana and open up a portal to the Diablo world and walk through it. Before, he could only enter the Diablo world with his mind in his sleep and kill monsters to level up, but now he could enter Diablo world with his physical body. The first thing he did when he entered Diablo world was not meet up with Akira and Xianxia, but rather open up his barbarian storage belt and glance through it. He was stoked. He found out that the small bag of winter wheat seeds he had put in the storage belt hadn't disappeared. That meant, I can actually bring items from the real world into the Diablo world. This discovery excited Faye. It meant that this didn't only apply to the small bag of seeds. He could bring any important items with him from the real world into the Diablo world.